Okay, so it is now lunch break on Friday. Checking in. I just did a prep for a adolescent. I would say adolescent. But like an adult. I did a prep for an adult, a college student. And I think it went well. We all know that adolescents are not my cup of tea. I love the youngins, but I did a prep and it went fine. Honestly, my supervisor said it went great, especially since like she had given me some feedback because every time we were in a room and doing an interaction and she started talking, I would just stop talking and I would just, because in my head I'm like, oh, she's talking, like she's taking over. And she told me yesterday that I didn't need to do that. Like if she was talking while I was having an interaction, like she's not trying to take over the intervention, but she's just like, ad-libbing. So today I implemented that. If she said something, like I didn't just stop interacting, I hopped back in and continued like doing my prep. And so she praised me for that. And then I did accidentally skip over a step during the prep, but then backtracked and did it. And which is like annoying to be like, oh man, I forgot a part. But I did remember and then backtracked and added it back in. And I was only like one step ahead of it when I forgot. So when I remembered that I forgot. So it was fine. But yeah. Yummy. So the prep went well. And I was able to do it all. It's still hard for me to count it as independently because it's like, yeah, I am the one who did all of the steps, but my supervisor did hop in a couple of times just to like say random things, which like, not even to be like, I didn't say this thing. She was just like elaborating on what I said. Cause like I would give an example and say, well, some of my friends do this, or some of my friends say it feel like that. And then she would like hop in and offer an alternative and be like, and also some of them say this, but because like I am not the only one. Why is my hair look like that? Jeez. Because I am not the only one speaking and doing the activity, it just feels like it's still not like fully independent. But yeah, I specifically asked her when it came back because she asked me, she was like, how do you feel it went? And I was like, I think it went well. And then I was like, how do you think it went? Because you never told me. And she was like, I do that because if something went bad, I would tell you, but if it goes good, like I just don't say anything. And I'm like, homegirl, I want you to tell me when you think it went good. Otherwise I'm gonna be sitting here like, oh, but what does she think? So yeah, I am excited for lunch. I'm feeling very low energy and tired today. And I think it's just mental tiredness and not like physical tiredness. But when you're like mentally tired, it makes you feel physically tired. So I think the root of my problems is the mental exhaustion that's making me feel physically tired. But I'm excited for the weekend to just relax and rest. So that's where I am.
Same as like the chemo doc of like.
Okay, we are back with another update at the hospital. Sorry you can't see me. Okay, look, I got merch yesterday from one of our donors in the cancer center. But this week, it is already Friday, it has flown by. Like, skedaddled past me, the beginning of the week, me and my supervisor sat down, talked about the journal I submitted last week, and kind of just like came up with a plan of what would better support me in my learning and like what type of supervisory style would be best. And she explained to me why she kept like hopping in during my interactions. So she just said that this is my work phone. I thought that what is that called? Flashlight was on. Anyways, she said that she thought that modeling would be good because she assessed that I wouldn't do well from constructive criticism. So she thought that modeling in the moment would do best. And then she was like, after I read the assessment, I realized that that would not be best for you, which is true. That would not be best for me at all. I don't like this overhead lighting. I dimmed it to try to make it better. It's not good. But she was like, yeah, I just thought that like modeling would do best for you, but I realized that like you didn't take it as that. You took it as me like just thinking you weren't doing well or da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, because you were just like, it felt like you were interrupting because I wasn't doing a good job and you thought that like there were things that I needed to say. But then at the same time, sometimes she would say things that I had in my mind to say, but like she's jumping in ahead of me anyways and saying them, which just wasn't helpful to me in my learning. So we talked about it, and now she's not doing that. She sits there and she's quiet during my interventions unless this is shaking, unless I need to ask her to do something, which is great. Like usually when I walk in with a patient, I'm like, hi, I'm Bria, I'm the child life resident, this is my supervisor. She's here to watch me, not you. She's just here in case there's something that like I need to ask her because I'm still learning, you know, and just let the patient know that. And then she's been doing great with not talking and not saying things unless I'm like, hey, would you care to like chime in? Which I will do sometimes because there are still things I don't know and I understand that, but it's just like, I can't show what I do know if I'm not like given the opportunity to, you know? So it's been better. I've been able to do a couple of things independently, like support. I haven't done a support. What did I do? I did 2 teachings. Like I did prep for a CT with a patient, and I did prep for a port access with the patient, and she was quiet unless I had something I needed to say. And like even if I did mix up my words or something, usually when I say something wrong, which I don't say things wrong all the time, okay, but when I do say something wrong, I notice immediately that I did, so I'm able to backtrack and like change what I said. Or I also prepped for, what else did I prep for? I prepped for OR. So like saying like, oh, you're going to travel to this room, and while you're in this room, this is the medicine you're gonna get, and all that kind of stuff. So like whenever I would say something, if I were to say something wrong, I'm able to catch it immediately. And it like shows her like, hey, I realized that I made this mistake and I'm able to fix this in a moment. I'm able to reflect on it, rather than if she were to just say something, then it's like, you can't really assess where I am if you're just saying things anyways. But anyways, so that's that has been going well. It has been a really slow week, but I've also just been sick. So I've welcomed the slowness this week, and you know, that we're not running back and forth between patients, and we have time to sit and do a play session. We did a lot of normalizing play and art with our little babies this week, and it's been great. But yeah, that's where I am right now. And I'm going home this weekend. So today, my schedule is usually 9 to 5:30, but today I'm working 8 to 4:10, also because I stayed late a different day and I need to like take back time and like make that hour work, or make my like 40 hours at the end of the week. It needs to be 40 hours. So if I ever stay late with a patient or something, I have to take that time away from another day, which is great because I get to leave here at 4:10 today to catch my flight and get to Chicago. So very exciting. But I'll talk more later because I need to eat, because I have something. It's 1:39 and I have something to do at 2. I'm not having a long lunch today, sadly, but I need to like eat and get back there, so I can't talk too long. There's already been like 6 minutes of me sitting here and just like taking one bite, so talk later.
I just want to say that today I talked with a mom of a patient, and she told me about the patient having a hard time the day before, and I asked if there was anything that I can bring, and she asked for an activity and like told me a little bit of details of what kind of activity she would like. So I brought it, and I was like, here you go, this is the best I could do, right? And then later on in the day, the mom came, knocked on the office door, and she was like, hey, sorry to interrupt, because I was talking with my supervisor at the moment. She came and she said, sorry to interrupt, girl, but I just wanted to let you know that I am so thankful. You have made such a big difference with my child, and they are feeling so much better after doing your activity, because they were feeling a little anxious and they were feeling like the same thing that happened the night before was gonna happen again today. And I told them, hey, why don't you do the activity that Bria brought you, right? That's what she was saying. And then she was like, my child just did a complete 180 and just got so much better, started feeling so much happier while doing the activity, and I just want to say I am so thankful for you, and I might come back tomorrow. We might need another activity to do, but I just wanted to let you know that you have made such a big difference. And I was sitting there like, girl, thank you. It was so nice of her to do that and to say that to me, and I felt like this is the first time that I have had a parent be so thankful. Like, parents are obviously, and caregivers are very thankful of child life services, and they'll say thank you and be like, oh, thank you so much for like the activity, thanks for spending time with my kid, thanks for the education, da, 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 da. But this mother was so thankful and so grateful, and took the time to leave the room, come over to the teen room, knock on the door, and interrupt my meeting to tell me that. And I just felt so great. It was like, in my head, there are like rewards that patients and families, they can fill out a form and give that reward to a team member who they believe has, like, you know, helped them, whatever, is doing a great job, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, man, I really want to get one of those. Like, that was one of my bingo card. What I want to do before my internship is over is get one of those rewards. In my head, I got it. Because maybe they don't know about those forms to fill out, but the way that she was so thankful and grateful and came to tell me about it, I'm like, yeah, I totally won that award. Totally did. And I'm like, I feel great. That was great. This is my last week on this unit too, and I'm like, feeling good. So that was really cool for me. That happened today, and I just wanted to take a sec and talk about that, because I'm not gonna, actually I am. I'm not gonna, this week is week 7. I don't think I did a video for week 6. No, I didn't. And I'm gonna do week 6 and 7 together, because I'm just gonna do a first rotation wrap up. But I wanted to make sure that I didn't like forget about this piece, because it was very nice to hear. I felt very happy about it. So yeah, that's where we are right now. Catch you next time, another day. Today is Wednesday, so catch on Friday or something, or Saturday. I'm working Saturday as well, but Saturday's not like technically part of my rotation. Saturday's kind of like part of like elective week, whatever. So I'll see you next time, because it was so great to hear, and I wanted to talk about it, and it was a good day. So yeah.
Okay, I am officially at the end of my first rotation. Okay. As evidenced by my congrats on your first rotation sheet that my supervisor and all of the CCLSs on my unit did for me. They all wrote cute little notes saying, congrats on finishing your first rotation and happy last day on Onco and all of that, which was very sweet of them. And then they also, my supervisor gave me a gift card to Panera, so very cute, very sweet. It was a bittersweet last week because I loved being in patient oncology and I had such a good time. So I was sad to leave. However, it's sweet because it's the first rotation's over and I just got through my first 7 weeks. I am halfway done and I am moving on to the second rotation and getting to see a different part of the hospital, and
I'm actually going into my elective week first this upcoming week, so I'm going to be able to shadow a bunch of different areas like the NICU, the infant transitional care unit, gonna go to gen peds and rehab, gonna go onto the cardiac unit. I mean, I'm gonna get to see a lot of different things, so that's what's sweet, but it's bitter because I'm gonna miss on inpatient oncology and miss all of the specialists there. It's a nice team of people, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm having a lot of feelings about the end of first rotation, just because everybody tells you it goes by very quickly, and it goes by even more quickly than you can imagine. Like, I feel like I was there for 2 weeks. Like, it went by so quick, and things changed so quickly as well, with like the first week of me being on the unit, where obviously I was familiar with the hospital setting because of all the volunteering I did. However, it was a shift in my mind that I had to do between what you're allowed to do as a volunteer versus what you're allowed to do as a CCLS, and the conversations that you're allowed to have. So there was a big switch there, and then there was a learning curve with learning about everything that has to do with oncology, since I was doing liquid and solid, and I needed to know about what the diagnoses were, what the different teachings I would be doing, all of that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of learning, and then these last 2 weeks of the internship, I have just been fully, or not of the internship, but of this rotation, I have been fully independent. So logging into the patients, just me on my own, sending all of the messages and communicating with the medical team, following up about, you know, if I were to see OT or PT, asking how the patient did, or if the patients are going to groups in the playroom, asking the group leader, like, you know, what happened and all that kind of stuff, and prioritizing on my own, going through every day, seeing what was happening with my patients and deciding on who I would prioritize seeing and who I would, you know, still, my goal was to see every patient every day, but just seeing who I would try to see most versus who would be okay if I didn't get around to them and all of that. And it was really cool. Hi, Bentley. It was really cool because it just feels like working as a CCLS at like especially my last couple of days. Definitely the last 2 weeks, but especially my last couple of days, where I didn't even have that many questions, because my supervisor was always there for me and always there to answer my questions. However, the last couple of days, it was like there was nothing I really had questions about, because everything that was happening was familiar to me, and there weren't any new procedures or new teachings or anything that I had to do. Why do you always want pets while I'm talking? I start talking and Bentley's like, it's time to come in. If I am not talking, he's just laying down. But as soon as I start having conversation with myself in this camera, he's like, time for pets? And I don't understand. I'm trying to get comfortable in this chair, sorry. Anyways, yeah, so the last couple of days, it was just like me CCLSing, Child Life Specialing, because I'm not certified, and doing everything on my own, which felt great. It felt so cool just doing it. And it's really funny. I think I talked about right in the last video. I had the conversation, or I filled out my journal, and then I had a conversation with my supervisor about me feeling like I wasn't able to be, what do you want? Feeling like I wasn't able to be as independent as I wanted, and her always hopping into conversation and kind of taking over the interventions that I was doing and stuff like that. And she told me initially, which I think I might have talked about this in the last video, but she told me initially, like, when she talks, that doesn't mean I have to stop talking, which is what I did at first, because in my brain it's like, if I'm talking and you continue to interject into the conversation, to me it feels like, or it felt like it was because I was doing something wrong, so she wanted to hop in and like correct what I was doing. And she told me that's not what she was doing, and she was like, you know, if I start talking, like, it can be a partnership, you can talk as well. And it was also kind of hard for me, I don't know if I said this, I might be repeating myself, but it was hard for me because I am more of a subdued person, and you know, when I'm talking, I take breaks and I'm not going rapid fire when I'm talking with children, especially in the hospital setting. So when she talks, she's a lot more animated and she has a lot of words coming out at once, and it feels like it's hard for me to find my way into the conversation like that because she's go, 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 and I am not a go, go, go type of person in that setting. So that was a difficult thing for me initially, and then when we talked about it, she was like, you know, find your way in, and then I made the effort to find my way into the conversation, and she commented on that immediately, like, hey, I gave you this tip and like you did it great. And then we talked about how I felt like I wanted to be more independent and how I felt like, you know, I wasn't able to do things on my own because she was interjecting and all that kind of stuff. And it was so funny because in that conversation, like, I swear to God, that conversation happened on a Monday, and she's like, it wouldn't serve our patients best, nor would it serve you best. Can you relax? I'm sorry. Anyways, she was like, it doesn't serve our patients and it doesn't serve you if you're doing things independently and you're exactly where you should be, and you know, you're not falling behind, and I understand that you want to be independent, but it's just not appropriate right now. I swear to God. Okay, so now he's asking for water. Bentley is so funny right now. I guess I should point out too that during our conversation on that Monday, did this load? Oh, heck yeah. Okay, during our conversation on that Monday, she was like, in my brain, I assessed that you don't like constructive criticism, and so because of that, I wanted to model for you what would be things that you can do during an intervention. And after reading your journal, I realized that maybe that wasn't the best thing. And I'm like, I obviously don't enjoy constructive criticism, which I feel like is not like a me thing. I feel like that's what a lot of people don't enjoy, being criticized. But that doesn't mean that I can't take it. Like, she told me what to do with the continuing to talk when she talks and collaborating, and I immediately did that. And whenever she gave me tips, I tried to immediately like incorporate that into my practice. So I felt like I was taking the criticism well, and I felt like it was being constructive for me. But she was like, because I assessed that you don't like constructive criticism, which wasn't something that I said out loud, it was just what she, I guess, like gathered from looking at me. She was like, I would model. And that's why she was interjecting, whatever, adding on to the conversation while I was doing interventions, because she felt like she was modeling what I should do. But to me, it felt like, you don't think I can do this, and that's why you're saying things and taking over. Especially because she would say things that I was already planning to say. So I felt like I couldn't show what I knew, and I couldn't show my skills, because she was doing it instead. So I couldn't show like, hey, yeah, I knew to say that. I was going to say that. You just said it first. So I was not enjoying it. But then we had the conversation, and she was like, I see now that that's not what you would benefit from. Like, what should we do instead? And I was like, I enjoy being able to like take the lead and do things independently. And if I have a question, I'll ask you. And then afterwards, I would like to debrief a lot. So we did end up doing that. So during that conversation on Monday, she was like, it's not appropriate. You're right where you should be. You shouldn't be doing things independently right now. And then literally 2 days later, I started doing everything independently, which is so funny to me. But she did back off. And I feel like I'm saying that so aggressively, but for lack of better words, she did back off and was allowing me to do things independently. And because I know I am the person I am, even during interactions, if there was a question that I didn't know the answer to, I would say, what do you think? And like ask her and have her answer the question if I didn't know the answer. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I know the answer, because that's not gonna be beneficial to the patient, nor will it be beneficial to me, because how I'm gonna learn if I don't ask? So, yeah, I was able to do that. And I was able to do an NG tube teaching on my own. I was able to do a CAT scan MRI preparation on my own. I was able to do preparation / medical play with a needle change on my own. I did medical play with a couple other patients too on my own. One of them was needle play with getting an IV into a shadow buddy like the one that I have. Another one was just painting with medical materials, but familiarizing with the medical environment and all that kind of stuff. And I was able to do all of that very independently. And my supervisor ended up not coming, like she no longer came into the rooms with me, which again, so funny, being like, I have to be there. And then like 3 days later being like, yeah, you can go in on your own. I don't feel like I have to be there. And I loved it, because then if I did have any questions, Bentley, please go night-night. And when I did have questions, I absolutely came back to the office and asked her those questions, and felt good. And then, so feeling like I ended the rotation where I wanted to be with being totally independent. And we did my midterm evaluation as well, which, okay, a little irritating, just because I am such a I need to be the best type of person, and the way that I would rate myself is different than the way that my supervisor would rate myself. And I feel like when we did it, we did the same evaluation twice. We did it first in the middle of the first rotation, and then we did it at the end of the first rotation. And in the first, sorry, I just didn't see numbers, and I'm like, is this recording? I hope that this is recording. I'm gonna stop it real quick and see if it is. Okay, it's definitely recording. So anyways, so when she did the first eval, she was like, she placed me all at 2s. Even though I would place myself all at 3s, she placed me all at 2s. And she was like, no, that's exactly where you need to be. Like 2 is very standard. Number 1, I want to be better. I want to be better than standard. But number 2, my supervisor was like, 2s are very normal. And then my coordinator was like, 3s are very normal. So I'm like, y'all, I would put myself at 3s. Why are you putting me at 2s and saying it's normal, and then you're saying a 3 is normal? Girl, I'm trying to get to a 4. Like, it's very irritating, and I'm still irritated about it. And then once we did it again, she put me at 3s and 4s, and which is much better. 3s and 4s is like where I feel like I should be right now. I don't think I should be, I mean, I actually do think I should be at 5s for some of them, but most of them, I feel like 3 and 4 is absolutely where it should be. And she's just like, 3s are very normal, like 4s are good. 3s were normal the first half, so like, you're saying 2s are, it's irritating for me because of how much I am such a student, and such an A student as well, because of the way that I was in college, because of the way that I was in high school, because of the way I am now. Like, I literally have straight A's in grad school because I am such a I need to be the best at everything. So constantly trying to get the highest grade, and it's very frustrating when it feels like I'm not getting the highest grade. And I understand that this is not a grade, and it's more like, oh, you need to learn the experience, also don't focus on the numbers. I can't, I have to focus on the numbers. So if you're not giving me the number that I feel like I need to get, it gets a little loopy in the head. So went over that. And what's another thing at the end of the rotation? I don't know. It feels like I'm going to go into the second rotation. I'm going to be in a very different part of the hospital, going from inpatient oncology to the EDECU, which is the emergency department extended care unit. And it's going to be a different range of ages, which it's going to be mostly like adolescents, some school aged. But while I was in inpatient oncology, it was a lot of younger school age, preschoolers, some toddlers, you know, my favorite, youngsters. I have babies, you know, so it's going to be very different. But from what I've been told, what I have learned, it's going to be very quick. As in my first rotation, it took a couple of weeks to like get my bearings and figure out the lay of the land, figure out the different protocols. And when I switched to EDECU, it's like obviously I haven't been on that unit, so I don't know the layout of the unit. However, I do already know the protocols, I do already know the rules, I know how to get to different places and what I have access to in terms of materials and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a lot shorter orientation and a lot quicker into oh my gosh, my belly hurts. A lot quicker into the thick of it, which is really cool for me. It's really cool in my opinion, I should say. Not really cool for me. I mean, it is cool for me, but yeah, so, and I think that another thing that I have been told very often in my life is that my emotional expression is very subdued and very bland. I feel like it's easier for me one-on-one with the camera to like express my emotions. However, when it's me and other people, I'm very much reserved, and it might be the introvertedness, it might be a hint of the autism, but it is definitely me not expressing my emotions very vividly, and rather if this is really sad and this is really happy, no matter how I'm feeling on the inside, I am constantly expressing like very much in the middle. So for one of the items on the, I'm gonna read it specifically so that you can see what it says. I was rated a 2 instead of a 3, which like 2 is meets expectations and 3 is outstanding performance. And I got a 2 on maintains a positive attitude, is tactful and considerate. And I was like, you don't think I'm happy? And she was like, as I was filling this out, she said that she was questioning what she was writing because she is kind of the same way, where she doesn't express very happy, very sad. But she was like, I would ask you if you wanted to do something and you would just be like, okay. So I'm like, I didn't know if you were like excited to do it or happy to do it. And I was like, yeah, well, story of my life. Because I definitely am happy to do things, and I am excited to, sorry, I just got a random text. It's like, I definitely am excited to do things when she's saying, hey, do you want to do a needle change on your own? We have a patient who needs some help and their CCLS isn't here if you want to cover for it. And I'm just like, yeah, I can do that. But on the inside, I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to do that. But like, I don't express it outwardly. And I can also usually, even though I'm not thinking about it from the perspective of somebody else, when I do things like that, which is constantly, I am thinking about it on the inside when I'm like holding it in, that I can like, I'm conscious of the fact that like I'm not expressing as much as I'm feeling on the inside, but like I don't change it because it's just like hard. I don't know. It's like I'm telling myself like, oh, you should probably like smile more, or like you know, but like I just like mentally like hold myself back from like expressing as much. And that's probably something that needs to be dug into in therapy. However, it is not being dug into right now, and I have been so conscious about it based on so many people telling me that I don't express my emotions, which I feel like I do. I at least express it verbally, even if I don't be smiling when I say it or crying when I say it. I do verbally say how I'm feeling, so to me that should be enough. But that was just one of the funny things on my evaluation. But yeah, so I'm talking so much. So ending of first rotation, the last 2 weeks, very independent, very much being able to find my own flow of things, realizing what helps me, what doesn't help me. I realized for me specifically, charting after every interaction rather than like doing a couple of interactions and then charting later on the day. Charting after every single one is best for me, just because there's so much that gets jumbled up in my brain, and so many little details too that I want to remember, that I feel like charting right away is best practice for me and how I work. But also finding the language of how I chart, because I like being very detailed. I like being very detailed and specific about how I speak and how I write, which is great when you're in grad school writing a paper. However, when you're writing a chart note, providers like for you to be concise, specific and concise. Not as detailed as you need to be, not as detailed as I want to be, I should say. So working on doing my notes, but taking out things that aren't super important, even if I feel like, you know, this is like important for somebody else to know. If it's not like generally important, working on taking that out and keeping my notes short and sweet has been what I was working on this week. And honestly, my notes too, because I talked about this before with my supervisor going in and editing my notes. She does that a lot less when she's not there. So with all of the notes that I was writing without her being there, even though like there's not a lot of things that I changed with the way that I write the notes, because she wasn't there, she would read it and be like, oh, felt like I was there. This is perfect. Like my notes were fine. But if she was there for an interaction, there was a lot more edits that were happening, which wasn't even about content as much, more about wording. So it's like I had all of the correct things there, but she just, because of her style, wanted to change it to be how she would have written it, even though she would say that the way that I wrote it was fine. She would just prefer to write it a different way. So being independent also allowed me to have my own style of writing notes rather than trying to write notes exactly the way that my supervisor would have written it herself, because I don't have to write it exactly the way she would write it, as long as I'm getting everything important across and I'm learning to be more concise and I'm using the appropriate language. If my phrasing is a little bit different, it doesn't matter. Personally, I think that my notes are great. And also I have read notes of other specialists and I've been like, you know, you're giving me crumbs. So there's a range of how people write notes, and I think that the entire time, other than a couple of different stylistic things, or I shouldn't say stylistic, a couple of things where it's like, instead of using the word but, use the word and, or don't say pain medicine, just say pre-med, you know, stuff like that, where it's like I need to have specific things for the hospital. I feel like my notes have been fine, which is great. There was something else I wanted to say, but I don't remember. But yeah, my notes have been good. My interactions have been great. We did a community event today where we went to it's like kind of like a community play space that people can go to either for open play, and they also have events, like they have mommy and baby yoga for like expecting mothers, and they have play groups for children and stuff like that. And it's like, it's a community center in the way that they do have some free events. However, they do also have paid memberships and paid drop-in times. But us as the hospital, we came and we provided DOC for a day event where it was free and community members could come and bring their children, and we had real and play medical materials, and we were able to just have medical play for a couple of hours, and that was a really cool event. We just had a bunch of different children come with their caregivers, and some of them just came and was like, hey, we're just here to play. Some of them, however, did come and they were like, yeah, you're gonna go get vaccines in a week and you're gonna see this stuff too, and like talking to their children, helping like familiarize and being like, what does this do? What do you think it does? All that kind of stuff. So that was really cool to do. It was forever away though. I left this place, my apartment, at 8 a.m. and I got there at like 9:55. Not 9:55. I got there at 8:55. So it took me so long to get there, which I wish it didn't, because I would have loved to be able to go there and do more events there if offered, but it's just so far away. But it was so cute. Like, look at the videos that I have of it. It was adorable. It was decorated like exactly the way that I would decorate a space if I were to have that kind of play space. So that was really cool. So yeah, there's nothing else that really I feel like I need to say about first rotation. It went by in the blink of an eye. I feel like I got exactly where I wanted to be in the end there, the last 2 weeks of being super independent, and I feel like I'm definitely ready for the next rotation, even though I'm gonna miss where I was. I think that being in the EDECU is gonna give me a lot of great experience and a lot of great education, which I think that overall, this is a very well-rounded internship that I'm in, where I'm going to be a strong candidate for when I do in fact leave this town, because I'm not staying here, I'm going back to Chicago. So when I do in fact leave,
this city and leave this hospital, I think that I will end up being a well-rounded and pretty strong candidate for applying to different jobs at different hospitals in Chicago. So I think that this is going great. Like always, like, comment, subscribe, ask questions if you have any. I've had like a couple of comments over my series, over the Child Life series, and honestly, I think like 2 of them asked a question. Most of them are just like, thanks for posting this, and I love that. I love that. I love praise. Tell me you like it. I love that. However, what if now y'all got questions? Nobody has a question for me. I love answering questions. So please, as I say every single video, ask questions if you have them. I would love to answer them. I also am totally open to reviewing applications and giving specific tips for specific questions that you might have if you're applying to internships, or even giving like, if you're going through applying for practicums or wanting to talk through interviews or anything like that, like hit me up. I got an email I can give you. Okay, well, this is it. I hope that I haven't been like super blurry this whole time. It's been looking like it's been focusing on my face, so I think we're okay. But thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.